Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and we have a mammoth 24 hands to review from our short deck play from only yesterday. It's a game where there's just so much action. Before we get into reviewing the hands, I again would like to urge you people to hit like on the video. We're not doing very well for likes lately. I guess it's because many people don't like the games. We're not doing very well for views, etc., etc. Please hit like. Please hit share. Please, if you're liking the content, subscribe. Hit the little notification bell. Please add some comments below. My YouTube channel isn't doing that well at the minute. I think it's because I'm also putting the videos on Facebook and not directing people to it. But I'd like YouTube to do well in its own right. So if you do watch this on YouTube, please do hit the like. Even if you don't like it, just fucking hit it for us, please. Yeah, so we're playing short deck today, which in my opinion is the absolute nuts of a poker game. It combines the action of PLO with the simplicity of No Limit Hold'em and how to play it. Pre-flop, people all put an ante in, there's no blinds, so everyone antes one chip or five chips in this case, and then the button antes a further five. So the button's like the pre-flop big blind in this game, and then it just plays like regular No Limit Hold'em, except all the deuces, threes, fours, and fives are taken out of the deck. And flushes now beat full houses because it's harder to make a flush than a full house. It's an absolutely wonderful game. Whenever you play it, whether you play it on PokerStars, the apps, GG, Party Poker, the games are just so much softer than No Limit, so much softer than Pot Limit Omaha, and so much more action than both of them. And on top of all of that, just so much more fun. Please do give it a try. It doesn't matter if you don't come and join me on the apps. I mean, obviously it'd be nice if some people did. Obviously I make part of my living from the apps, but this isn't necessarily why I'm making the videos. It's not necessarily just to promote the app games. It's to promote the game of 6+ in general, because I want this game to be here in 5 or 10 years time, because I think it's just such a fantastic game. When I'm playing these games now, it feels like I've been transported back to 2007 when I was playing No Limit, because I'm still not very good. I'm getting better. Feels like I'm getting better by the day, but I'm still not very good. My opponents are all pretty terrible, and I think huge, enormous win rates are possible. And I think the potential for me to have a huge win rate and to move up in limits where I can make some serious money is real. And yeah, I'm super pumped and super excited by the game at the moment. My volume is through the roof in terms of hours put in per day. And yeah, I played another 4 or 5 hours yesterday, and we got at least, probably could have had more than 20 hands, 24 hands to review. The action is bonkers good. So anyway, we're on to the first hand here. This player's limped, this player's limped. We should just limp any two at this point in the cutoff. There was 35 chips in the pot before we came in. We're getting 7-1 pre-flop in the cutoff with 9-8. So it's almost any two at this point. Maybe we can limp some of our worst hands. I don't know. Anything with the 6 in, really. That's offsuit especially. But that's about it. So we limp it in. Hang on, just need to mute this because we don't need the sounds. And we flop 3 9s. As it, these hands are all just either large pots or tough decisions. Some of them will be less interesting than others. I suspect this one isn't going to be particularly interesting, but we'll see. I don't really remember it. But we have 3 9s as limp pot. We should just be potting it here, I think, if it checks to us. Aha, right. So we've been led into by this player who I'm not super familiar with. Probably should be because I recognise the name, but I don't remember what type of player they are by just by name. We got trip 9s. The temptation in No Limit here would be to slow play quite a lot, I think. Draws have less equity against us in No Limit. If we had, let's say, a Jack 10 here or something like that, in No Limit, what would he have, like low 30%? In this game, if he has a Jack 10, he's going to be getting up into the high 40%. So we don't want to be slow playing when there's potential draws on board against an opponent. He could also just have a queen that won't fold. Very unlikely, almost impossible he has a worse 9. he's limped under the gun. He doesn't have 9-7, 9-6, so he does have a 9. We're in rough shape. But I think overall, I mean, he could also, with him being under the gun, if it's a regular, he could just have limped a hand like pocket aces, pocket kings, and he's now kind of value betting slash betting to see what happens, betting to find out where he's at, that type of thing. So he can definitely have lots of overpairs. He's limped here and doesn't hit the board on. It's just like kind of just probing. So I think we should raise, which is what we do. Button comes along for a call. We turn the full house. So now we're not worried about our opponent having a straight draw because we now beat us. If he was in there with the Jack 10, well, get in there. We're delighted with that. The thing that remains now is, do we bet or do we check? And I can, again, most of the time I'm not going to remember what I did. There's a couple towards the end that I do remember because they were at the tail end of last night's session. But I think I'd like to see myself bet here. Obviously now we're beating all these 9s except Queen 9. We're not beating Queen's full, but he doesn't have that on the button when he just checks up through these limps very often. Not many people checking Queens back on the button. Yeah, I just think we should bet. And question is, do we just bet small now? Because if we bet large, we force him to have a 9. So if we jam here, we force him to have Jack 10 or 9x. If we make it, I don't know, like 140, which is like less than half the effective stack. Maybe not even 140. Maybe even just like 100, 110 at Shove River. Yeah, I think I favour a small bet here. We just jammed, and it was the cooler. I mean, the jam's not terrible. I mean, when he like calls, he's bet, we've raised, he's called. He's going to have 9x or Jack 10 a decent amount of time. So I don't hate the jam, but looking back, I think I'd rather have just gone small to make sure that, or to make it difficult for him to fold a queen. If we go like 100 on the turn, he probably can't fold a queen for 100, getting 4-1, or getting 4.5-1. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe you prefer small there upon review. But we dragged it down anyway. Here we call a cut-off open with King Jack, which I think's fine. And our opponent just goes all in. We've got an open end straight door, so we have in the sort of 45 to 50%, sort of 45 to 48% equity range here. We have a backdoor diamond, which helps, but it does like block some of the draws he can be shoving with. And I like to be the guy shoving in, maybe not shoving in this exact situation. I wouldn't be doing this in this pot size. If the pot was slightly bigger, I like a shove on this board a lot with a lot of our range. I like a shove with our draws. I like a shove with our sets and our top 2 pairs. So I think this is fine if this pot was bigger to begin with. I think going 5x pot with these shoves, especially it's like a three-way pot, it's a little bit on the large side. So, but we're not really getting a fantastic price on our call here. We're getting not that much more than 1-1, and I wasn't a huge fan of the situation. Calling's probably slightly losing money, I would imagine. I think, could be wrong. Someone can tell me. Someone with more short experience than me can tell me that. But we elected to fold. Here we have limped the Ace King under the gun. Totally standard play in this game. You want to be limping pretty much everything in these games, especially when you're at a full table, because you're going to want to limp most hands, and there's only so many hands you're going to want to raise before the flop, like aces, kings, ace kings, things like that. There's not a load of hands. Most of your range wants to limp in this game, so you want to be limping your strong hands too, so you can have some limp raises. We limp it, we don't get the opportunity to shove over a squeeze. Now we get this flop, Queen 8, Ace, 50 in the pot. Let's see us just again, and this is going to be kind of a pro bet. We're just going to want to lead out relatively big and probably fold to a raise, because one pair being raised in a limped pot There's just going to be so much out there that can beat us. So I think let's see us just probe here. I think 40 or 50 is fine. We probe for the full pot. We get ripped on. And on this board, when we get ripped on, especially with it being so dry, you know, there's only gut shots out there for draws. We do block like ace queen, ace eight. You know, you probably shouldn't have queen eight very often, but you can just have like set of eights, maybe even a set of queens. Ace queen for sure, ace eight suited. Well, there's two combos of that. So yeah, again, we know we're probing when we lead out. We're happy to just take it down, to be honest with you, when we lead out. It's not going to happen very often. If we get called, we're going to start proceeding with a bit of caution on turns, because one pair in this game, it just isn't that good. It's especially not good when you're in a six-way multi-way pot, because this one pair is not going to be the best hand anywhere near enough, and I think we have a pretty easy fold here. Here we have the Jack 10 suited again. It's a pre-flop decision this time. Pre-flop, Jack 10 suited all in against most shoving ranges is doing fine. It's got 30% against pocket aces, for example. I think could be wrong from memory. It's got about 35% against pocket aces. To coin flip against ace king. So this was just a, do I want to just YOLO it here? This guy, not familiar with him. This guy's quite the... I think it's difficult with these PP numbers to remember them, and your colour tags don't come out in the replay. But I think this guy is a bit of a nit, and he's just like massively opened for looking like 15 antis under the gun, which is a pretty weak play in terms of like how the fuck do you balance that? If you are a nit and you're opening for 25 antis under the gun, sorry, 15 antis under the gun, you're not going to be able to balance that. That's just going to be very strong hands almost all of the time. So given that I thought it's very likely he could have like pocket aces or pocket kings here, then that blocks this guy having, you know, he's just putting dead money in more. So I was thinking, is this dead money now? We should probably maybe think about calling this, going all in with this pre, because of this extra 218 chips that I'm presuming is, well, not dead money, because it can suck out, but not a premium range, shall we say. In the end, I just thought, we can just find better spots and getting it in pre-flop with Jack 10 versus what for me was an obviously strong range. Turns out we would have been crushed by the pocket 8s, but that's by the by. I think his 15x open under the gun with ace queen off is fucking atrocious. Utterly atrocious. I have no doubt if I'd have jammed, he would have called it off as well. If he is a regular, and I can't remember because there's quite a lot of these PP numbers, but if he's a regular, that is an atrocious open. Absolutely atrocious, and he got duly punished for it. Here we have the ace queen. We overlimp. It's another multi-way pot. We have top two pairs. We want to see us go pot here, I think. We do. We get called, so on the turn, we're wanting to dodge anything blue, anything Broadway. We're wanting like a nice, well, basically a 7 or a 6. That's about the only fucking blank card in the deck. An 8 gets Jack 9 there. A 9 gets Jack King there. A 10, gets trips there. Jack gets Ace King there. So basically you want to see a 6 or a 7 or an ace. But I'll probably a queen, because it makes flushes not be there. Diamond to bad. Basically, there's a fucking ton of terrible cards for us, and we don't want to see any of them. That's a very good card. We pot it. Our opponent calls again. This guy is a monster. I'm not sure if it's the same guy from the last hand or not. I can't be asked rewinding back. You guys can do it. But I know for a fact, I remember this hand. This guy is a monster. He's got like a very tight VPIP, very low PFR, which is completely standard for regulars in this game. But he's one of the tightest players. And when he check calls 2 bets on this board, I'm just hoping he's in there with he's limped an ace king and he just didn't want to fold it, or maybe he had an ace jack once in a while. Maybe he's got the same hand, ace queen. I'm just hoping he's going to check and we win. But he basically doesn't. Well, I mean, to me, he needs to put the extra 20 chips on and put us all in. I don't know why he's not left. Why he's left 20 chips behind. But I just think this is almost never a bluff from this particular player. If it is, if he has got the same hand, if he's got like an ace queen and an ace 10, and he's turning it into a bluff on the diamond, then very well played to him, and I mean that sincerely. Hats off to him. He probably realises that diamond is a better card for his range than it is our range. Maybe because I don't know. I don't know if it is a better. I mean, what diamonds would I have here? It's hard. Ace King of Diamonds. The 10 and the 9 are out. So that was Jack 8 of Diamonds. No, I don't have that. Ace Jack of Diamonds. So there's Ace King, Ace Jack of Diamonds. Which one of us has most of that? It's a coin flip because we can both have both of them. He's been first to bet. I hope he did have the flush. I hope he didn't bluff me off a chop or bluff me off the best hand. But we just need to fold the river versus this. Well, I think versus almost any player. So I think check call, donk shove river. When the obvious draw gets there. In almost any form of poker, from most of your opponents, is just going to be a flush. I think we just need to make the disciplined fold. Here we have an unusual situation. I think this is the same play from the last hand. This has to be a misclick pre. There's no way this is, if it is the same regular from the last hand, there's just no way this is something he's intending to do, or it shouldn't be. I'd be very surprised. I think it's almost certainly going to be a misclick. Do we have King 10 off in the cut-off? We're just going to put our 10 chips in, try and see a flop. And we flop the absolute nizzles. We face a very small bet and a call. So, I mean, what's going on with this guy in his hand? I've literally no idea. Maybe he has two kings and he was trying to raise bigger pre and now he's just like, 16 I have to call. What this guy's doing, the good Lord only knows. But we need to be popping this up and it's just a question of sizing. There's 107 chips in the pot. The effective stack is 409 or 465 depending on whether we think this guy's staying around. I don't think he is. I think once we raise, this guy's like folding almost all of the time. This guy who fucking knows. So what size do we want to make? 107 chips in the pot. When we make our call, I'll make it 123. I'd like to go with a slight overbet over the 1, 2, 3. So I think I'd want to go at least 140 here. I think that's the smallest I want to see myself raise. I'm happy enough with that. Our opponent calls. Turns the ace. Doesn't really change that much in terms of the nuts. Yeah, of course now full houses beat us. But I think ace queen against someone who's probably bad like this guy is probably just jams the flop when we raise. So I'm not worried about ace queen. Same goes for ace jack. I think any flop two pairs jam. Any flop set like jack set of queens jams. So I just don't think a full house is that big a part of his range. I think a lot of naked ace X can be, like ace 10, ace whatever, fucking who knows. So I think we have like a super easy turn jam here, and if he has got one of the very unlikely full houses, then more power to his arm. We jam and he just snap folds, and he had the king 6 of diamonds. Just take a quick drink. So this is going to start a theme of something I want to talk about through this video, because I'm not sure about my pre-flop raise strategy. And many good players are watching and would like to get in touch with me or comment. Please ideally comment on the video or comment when it goes on Facebook. Pre-flop raising with big pairs, given that we're limping almost everything from most positions, and raising is something we do at a very low frequency, normally with a very, very tight range. I've kind of back and forth yesterday. Well, I didn't really back and forth. At the start of the day, I was doing stuff like this, and presuming I'm going to raise here. I was making like 11 antes to try and isolate the limper. And the problem with that is it doesn't fucking work. It doesn't achieve isolation very often. The amount of times I've made it like even 70 blinds pre, and then we've still got the flop like three-handed. There's been 210 in the pot, and then you got like SPRs of 2, and almost always you're just stuck there with an overpair on a board that's either already got like 3 to a straight out there, or it's got tons of draws out there, because that's just how this game functions. It's how it works. So in this position, we need to raise, and I think this is fine. From earlier position, trying to isolate a limper, I think like making it 10 antes is fine. Later on, I want to talk about what we're doing on the button if it's like a multi-way limped pot. Are we still there, just happy to make it pot plus a few antes, like make it 70? And knowing we've got the button, we're probably going to get about 3 callers and have like an SPR of 1.5. Or, if everyone's limped to the button, so there's like, I don't know, what would there be? 12 antes in the pot. If everyone limps to the button, that's everyone in for 1 ante blind, and everyone's in for another ante what they've called with. So there's like 12 antes. Can we then just open rip like aces, kings, ace, king, ace, queen suited from the button? Is that a better play than making what would be classed as like a normal raise size in this game of anything from say 12 to 14, 15 antes? And that is the question I would like to throw out there to anyone with experience in this game. At the moment, from the cut-off or the button, if everyone's limped to you and you have the absolute pre-flop starting hands of aces, kings, and ace-king suited, are you raising to a normal size, or are you just ripping, trying to pick up the dead money that's already in the pot, or trying to pick up like a loose call from somebody behind? So that is the question. As you can see, as we get further onto the video, you see I changed my strategy later in the day. So here we've got the 2 kings. It's a limped pot. King Zane, again a player I'm not really that familiar with. He's like that for full pot here. We have the overpair, we have the gut shot, we have the backdoor flush draw. I think at this point there's nothing to do other than just pile it in. We block King Jack so hard. If he's got sets, then good for him. We're going to need to get there. We've got like 6 outs again to set, which isn't ideal, plus the backdoor flush. But even 6 out in this game, 6 outs twice, and we've still got like 30% against a flush. So we just need to jam at this point. He did have the nuts, but we tied him on the turn. So here's an example of what I was just talking about. Now, we're not going to do anything with 10-9. We're probably just going to check back here. But 10-9 might be a hand we want to raise sometimes just to balance out our aces, kings, ace, king. You know, maybe 10-9 or jack 10 suited. Maybe that time we want to put in a ripping thing. So maybe on buttons we rip aces, kings, ace, king suited, and then maybe all combos of 10-9 suited and jack 10 suited, or maybe just all combinations of one of them, maybe just all combinations of jack 10 or 10-9, just to like balance out our aces, kings, ace, king if we're worried about being balanced in this game, which I'm not really. But if you look at the situation now, assuming this was aces rather than 10-9 suited, there's already 60 chips in the pot. Do we just want to ram it in here and hope one of these guys is like limped hand they're not folding? You know, some of these guys are pretty fishy. If they've limped ace queen, they're probably not folding it. If they've limped ace jack suited, they're probably not folding it. If they've linked king queen suited, they're probably not folding it. So it's a situation where rather than us making it say 75 chips here and possibly getting 2 callers and then being like left a lot of the time if this was aces with just an overpair, is it better just to rip here, given all this dead money or potentially dead money in the pot, or is it better to just make a normal raise size? So that is the question. I really would love some comments in the comment section on YouTube or on Facebook about this precise situation with aces, kings, ace, king, and then maybe this hand or a jack 10 suited. As it happens this time, we just check back. We flop top pair and an open and straight draw. So we've been potted into, and this is a very strong hand in this game. Yeah, we're dead to Jack 10, of course. We're drawing dead to a Jack for a chop. But top pair, backdoor flush draw, and an open ender is very strong in this game. We're entirely justified getting all the money in, which is what we do. We get it in against. I mean, he just needs to be folding that hand. He's got top pair and no draw whatsoever. That's just a. I mean, yeah, he's got the best hand in like he has like the strongest hand at the moment. But you know, if he saw my hand, he'd be doing right to fold, I imagine. But he doesn't, and then we get there. This is a situation that took me a little bit by surprise. I think this is going to be strong. This 15, imagine. You don't see these very often, and them being like weak hands. I mean, obviously, with pocket kings, we're loving life when we see this because we just want to limp and rip over it. But then this guy makes this 200 chip raise. And in this game, when I see these non-all-in 3-bets, I liken them to like when you play No Limit Hold'em and you see the non-5-bet shove by a fish or a bad regular. Then how often is the non-5-bet shove anything but aces? Almost all the time in No Limit Hold'em, you 4-bet and the guy 5-bets but doesn't jam 100 blinds deep. You're just like, oh fuck, this dude's got aces. And the vast majority of the time, they have aces in No Limit Hold'em in this situation where this isn't the same situation because this is just a 3-bet. But I liken it to the cold fight to the 5-bet in No Limit in terms of it. The range is going to be super narrow. It can only be one of a very few hands, and this looked like aces to me. I just thought, oh fuck, the dude's got aces. So can I just fold the kings pre-flop, make a really exploitable fold here, and just muck the kings because I think this is going to be aces just a huge amount of the time. So can we ever fold kings here? I obviously assumed no, we can't, and we got lucky, I guess, in the fact that he had, like the one combination of hands we had absolutely crushed. Whenever I see the 3-bet pre-flop in these games, that isn't all in, and even when it is all in, it's aces a lot. But when it's not all in, I just think it's such a nutted hand that. I think if we did have queens there instead of kings, I think folding would have been entirely appropriate. We have the 8s here. We're going to overlimp. We flop nothing. Bet you can't guess what the turn's going to be. Have a guess what the turn's going to be. Yay! We turn a full house. What a surprise. Checks to us again. We bet over the pot and get min raised and called. So we've got like the worst full house possible here, and we've faced a min raise and a call. What are you doing? Have a little think. What do you think? I mean, are we drawing dead here? Are we going to be loving life against just a random 10x that's slow played and now got itself in trouble? What are you doing here? You got to call 65 chips into 375, so getting a fantastic price to call. But call to hit what? What rivers are good for us? N8. That's about it. If just a random ace-x is in there, then we're crushing that too. But there's no way just random ace-x plays this way in this game. We're not worried about flush draws too much because even though flushes beat full houses, they're just not that likely to come with just one card to come. There's like 5 flush cards they can hit if they've got 2 of them. So they've got like 15% equity. So I'm not too worried about the flush cards. It's just, are we already drawing dead? Could someone have aces here? Absolutely they could. Somebody have ace 10. Yeah, very much so the way this hand's gone. And I made perhaps one of the nittiest folds ever made. We just let our hand go here for the min raise and the call. I was more worried about this guy than this guy, but I was worried about both of them. The flush comes on the river, so if we weren't dead before the river, we almost certainly are now. Excuse me. He goes bet call, and this guy just had the 10-8, and I was so pleased with my fold there because we've just got. I mean, we've turned a full house, and we've overbet the pot, and we've got away from a min raise, and I think I'm, one of a small percentage of players who would have made that fold on the turn. Is it exploitable? Yes. Am I going to be exploited by people min raising turns against me? No. I think I'm really, really happy with that fold, even though it seems utterly bonkers to a lot of people, I imagine. Here we have the ace queen. Do we want to overlimp here, or do we want to squeeze it up? Do we just want to jam? Again, similar situation to earlier. We're on the button with a very strong holding against multiple limps. I think we've all options on the table here. I think overlimp is not that good. I think raising to 70s, okay. I think jamming's okay. I think all options on the table here except fold. And I don't like any of them that much, to be frank. What do I come with? Come with a big raise. And we get a caller, and then we now get to what we got like a SPR of 1.5, maybe 1.8, something like that. And this guy just limp called pre. Probably doesn't have a 7 in his range very often. That limp calls this much, because 7's a pretty weak. Anything with a 7 in's a pretty weak hand in this game. Pocket 7s, pocket 9s, maybe ace 7 suited. But I think a lot of the time here we're just not going to have the best hand, but we're going to be able to put a lot of pressure on the types of hand he's limped in with. I mean, there's a lot of worse hands he's going to have here that's just going to fall to a bet. If we just get King X to fall, like King Jack, King 10, King Queen. I don't think he has Ace King. I think that limp shoves pre. Ace Jack. There's lots of hands here that have bits and pieces of equity against us. I'd just like to make fold. So I'm going to go with a jam here. And if he does call, he's going to a lot of times going to have like hands like pocket 10s, pocket jacks that we've got, like maybe, 30% equity against. This might be a little bit spewy, but we went with a jam. And he just folded straight away. It's the same hand again, I think, so we're just going to ignore this and go to the next one. So we have pocket 7s here. We limp in. And then he makes a really bad ISO from the button. This size, given what we talked about earlier about do we want to make it large, do we want to just jam with our raises from the button. This is just a bad... This guy's a regular. This is an atrocious size. Absolutely atrocious. We call. We flop. Bottom set. So what's our options here? I think we need to be betting. This board's just way too dynamic. And this guy is a regular. It's very unlikely to see bet this board with like anything. If he has like done this small race pre with like aces, kings, queens, etc., I don't think he's likely to see bet this board multi-way. I don't think we want to be going for a check race here. I think we just want to be leading out with our set. We might already be fucked. We're crushed by sets of 9s, we're crushed by sets of 10s, we're in bad shape against stuff like Jack Queen, even Jack 8. Well, we're fucked by Jack 8. So it's not a great spot. We're happy just to lead out and take the pot down now. We could do lots of things here. I think we can just bet for pot. I don't hate the overbet shove to try and get, force like pocket kings, pocket aces to just like try and just maybe over defend against what is going to contain a lot of bluster sometimes, because if I'm going to be shoving my 7s here, I'm going to be shoving my 9s and my 10s too. Probably also going to be shoving my combinations of Jack Queen and my flush draws. So I think we can shove a lot of hands here that we played the same way. Whether I don't know if I shoved or not, but I think I like shove now. And the shove is what we do. We get snapped off. Probably isn't good news, and he had a really good hand to call us off with. He had a pair and an open ender and a flush draw. I think his call's completely fine here, and we lose. This king's going to come in for a raise, so that's unusual from me. There's one guy limping. I guess we're four-handed, so you're less incentivized to limp because there's just not as much money in the pot, and there's not as many people that are potentially going to squeeze it up behind you. It's unusual, but I haven't been doing this at all lately. This is not something I've been doing. I understand why I've done it. We already got one guy limping, and we maybe just want to try and isolate. We've got more chance of achieving isolation beforehand, I guess. So I don't hate this. I wouldn't have hated the limp either. And we get a call from the button. We kind of flop that doesn't favour our isolation range whatsoever, because our isolation range is going to be a lot of aces, kings, queens, ace, king, that type of thing. So it's not a good board for us. So because it's not a good board for us, I elected to check and then go for the rip. Maybe he has a hand like pocket tens, pocket nines, that he's bet. Well, pocket nines probably wouldn't fold if it bet because it has an open ender. Pocket jacks maybe, pocket queens even. We could put a lot of pressure on all those hands, especially ones without a heart. You know, if he's got two queens here without a heart, two jacks without a heart, putting a ton of pressure on. And we got good equity against those hands. If he's just got like an overpair here without a heart, we're probably a favourite versus that. He does call us. He had the two pair, and we went runner, better two pair. Delightful for us. What happened here? I didn't see pre-flop. This guy has just raised it to 5 antes. Calling from the button. We flop ourselves a top pair. No kicker really. Backdoor, flush, backdoor straight. He bets just over half pot. I think not loving it, but we can't fold just yet. We call. Turn comes, and now we pick up a gut shot and a nut flush draw, and it checks to us. And I think if anyone had a really strong hand here, they wouldn't check. I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of hands like ace king and ace queen in here without a club that are probably hoping it checks through, or hoping to check call a smaller bet. I'm going to make a small bet. If I'm betting here, I'm going to just try and put maximum pressure on these one pair hands that might be ahead of us. Excuse me, I don't expect an ace jack or a jack 9 to fold. Maybe we can put some pressure on a 9-7, although I don't suppose that's out there too often. But it's either check back here for us and just realise or try and realise our equity, or use the fact we've got the nut flush blocker to apply pressure to our opponents. I go with the latter, and we get 2 folds, which is nice. So to my session, I played the last session of the evening. Last session yesterday. Queen Aries is a player I'm not that familiar with. I know the guy pretty well. I'm in a chat group with him, but I haven't played with him much yet. He did seem to be quite a tight player, and this player was absolutely fucking mental. Off the charts, mental. He was limping a lot. He was open jamming a lot. He was calling versus very large bets a lot. He was just a super action guy, or she. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a she. With that screen name. I don't know what I did here. I don't actually remember. And this is one of the more recent hands I played. Obviously, we're going to raise. Maybe we don't go for the all-in because there's only 30 antes in the pot. I think maybe jamming might be excessive here. Yeah, we just make it 50 chips. Get the call. Wow. Didn't think I'd do that. I don't remember this hand. I mean, this player's live enough where if they... I think if he has a king, he probably just donks into us. Yeah, I'm not sure they'll move a bit here. I think we can just go with a normal pot size bet here. But we do get looked up. He's got the king 9 suited. And he got there against us on the turn, and then we got there on the river. Is that how that went down? Yeah, he hit the turn, we hit the river. And we win the pot. Just shows how live these games are, though. Although, to be fair, once he limp calls, that was a fantastic flop for him. Here we have... Oh, this is the higher stakes game. I saw this guy playing one level up, and I just thought I need to be in there with this guy because he was beyond crazy. He had like over a 70 V pip. He was just action. And even though I haven't earned the right to play this higher stakes game yet, if ever you're going to take a shot at higher, this guy's a whale too. If ever you're going to take a shot at a higher stakes game, you want to do it when there's two massive wheels in the pot in the game. This guy was just a nit, and don't remember this guy. It was a good table. Thought it was worth taking a shot. We have the queens. We overlimp. We flop a set. He pots it. This guy's not going to fold. When he pots this board, he's just going to have so much ace-x that just isn't folding that we just have crushed and to get maximum enormous amount of value from. He just call it off, and he actually, he has a very good hand to take against us. He's not that far off a coin flip here. Yeah, so that wasn't a hand I wanted to see. When you think all the range of hands that you could have, pocket nines, all ace-x combos, ace-9, things like that. Of all the hands he could have, this is the one we least wanted to see. That's the one he had. But we held. That was a solid hold at a higher stakes table. This hand, I'm not in the hand, but I just put this in to show that this is like double the stakes. This is like 20 cent ante pre-flop. And having watched some training content, these games, if you're playing, say, 10 cent ante, it's the equivalent of playing 40 NL in terms of like the average pot size, that type of thing, and how much money there is in the pot after the flop, even if people just limp through. I watched some material on that, and yeah, basically, if you're playing this game, the equivalent stakes when it's a full table, it changes. The less players are at the table, the lower stakes you're effectively playing. But at a full table, you're effectively playing like 4 times higher than the ante. So this is like a 20 chip ante. So it's like playing 80 NL, if you will. So it's for my bankroll, it's a pretty big game. For the bankroll I have on the club I'm in, it's a pretty big game. And this is the sort of action you can see in these games. So yeah, obviously we're not in this hand with the Jack 8, but we just see a 4-way all in with 8-9 off, 9-10 off. This is reasonable, of course. That for him, that's the fucking nuts. But yeah, we just see a enormous 4-way all in with some pretty trashy hands. So yeah, these games are fucking good. Here we, again, we could make an argument for just ripping here, but because it's 4-handed, I don't want to. 6-handed, had everyone limped, I would just have ripped this. This is my new strategy now, is just rip from the button versus multiple limps, not raised to this size. But because we're only playing 4-handed, I elected to just go with a 12 anti-raise. We flop top 2 pairs. Get check 2. I think it's time to start going for some value pretty damn quickly. Any jack or 10 fucks us. We probably don't want to see a queen either, even though if we pot it and we get called, queen isn't going to be a huge part of people's ranges for calling in. Maybe queen 10 suited gets stubborn, queen jack suited gets stubborn. We pot it. This guy ships it very rapidly. And I'm not loving life all of a sudden. I'm not loving life. We're probably still, obviously we're still ahead of ace queen. Still ahead of king queen. We're chopping with ace king. He can have a set of queens for sure. Probably doesn't have a set of kings. Probably limp shoves kings pre or raises kings pre. So we're not loving it, but what are we going to do? We've got top 2 pair in a massive pot. Just going to go with it. And we were drawing pretty slim. Here we have the 2 aces. We just go with the rip over the 2 limps. We have this guy who's just doing whatever the fuck he pleases, and he gets it against us. But he's limp called it all off with 8-9. The fact I didn't put this in because it was a bad beat, because whatever. I can promise you, I couldn't give a flying fuck about bad beats anymore. I'm just so used to them now in this game, giving them out, getting them myself. It's just part of the game. It's just what happens in this game now. You get all in pre against bad hands, and sometimes you lose. This is one of those times, and you're delighted to see it, even though you lost the pot. You're utterly delighted to see people who will just like limp call 100 antis pre-flop with a hand as weak as 8-9 off suit. So we're getting towards the tail end of the session now. We have the Queen 9 suited here. We're just going to check from the button, I presume. Pair and a flush draw. We've got this player here who makes this type of bet size. Excuse me. Who makes this type of bet size. Very weak bet in this game. That the half pot bet is just not a size you want to be using very often. You certainly don't want to be using it in multi-way pots on a board as textures as this. We can do a few things here. We can just call, try and realise our equity. We can make a small raise with a view to stacking off. Or we could even possibly shove. And I don't remember which one it was that I did. We went with the smaller raise. We get called. Turn ace comes, which I don't think our opponent has very often. I think when he does this, he has a lot of, well, not a lot of, some king queen, some jack tens, maybe jack 10 just rips the flop. I'm not sure, but I mean, I don't think he has an ace too often. If he does, then good for him. I think we can just put a ton of pressure on hands that are clearly beating us here. So I remember now, I think we ripped. He folded and showed a king. Don't like the way he's played the hand at all. Jack 9 suited, but obviously going to come in with the overlimp. Everyone calls, as do we. We flop a pair and a gut shot here, which is a reasonably strong hand. If this was heads up, it'd be far stronger than it is in a multi-way pot. Don't actually remember this hand, so let's see what happens. We just call the 10, I think that's fine. Then we get raised. And at this point, I think we should probably fold. There's a chance that we're not in very good shape at all. An 8 doesn't even give us the nuts. An 8 gives Jack Queen the nuts. We have backdoor diamonds, which are obviously great for us. If we hit the backdoor diamonds, we can expect to win nearly all the time. But it's gone race call, and I just think we have better hands to go with here. I think we should fold. Let's see what we do. And we do fold. And as it turns out, we were in very rush shape. We would have got there on the river. The backdoor flush, of course, would have been good. But we made a pretty damn decent fold, I think, against the two jacks there. This is second to last hand. We limp the pocket queens. And this guy is a pretty damn tight regular. He made it 55 chips to go. And I was just going to limp call. Because I think when he does this, he's just going to have a very strong hand. I don't think he does it with jacks, for example. I think jacks just calls. I think he's going to have pocket kings, pocket aces, ace king a lot. And if a jam pre-flop, we're just going to be probably at best flipping versus his range. But once these two guys come along too, this guy's quite aggressive. So when he doesn't 3-bet, he does not have better than queens. This guy's kind of a tightish regular. He just limped under the gun and he hasn't back raised. He hasn't back raised shoved, so he doesn't have better than queens. So that if there's two hands in here, there's 110 chips in here that I know are not a better hand than us. He could absolutely have like a ton of ace king. Maybe now and again he has like an ace jack suited that he folds to a rip. I didn't love the situation, but I thought ripping was okay. But it might be spewy. Maybe we should just call. I'm not sure. It might be spewy. Let me know what you think. Is like limp jamming queens here. I think, as I said, if these had folded, I think I would probably just have limp called versus this player and tried to navigate post flop. But with this, what I was very confident was just dead money in the pot. I elected to fight hard for it. And he turns up with a hand he should never ever turn up with. I mean, pocket eights is, in my opinion, just an atrocious call pre-flop. I mean, he's a regular. He should know that he's up against two of the regulars. The chances of pocket eights being good here is just remote. Don't like his play in the slightest. But it turns out on this flop, he's doing better than we are. Once I saw this flop, I'm like, yeah, we're dead. I saw the kings, I thought, yeah, we're dead. But when this flop came down as well, I'm like, we're in one out territory. And of course, we didn't get there. This is going to be the last hand of the video. This guy, as I told you about, is very aggressive. I've been having some discussions about limp calling under the gun, and I've decided I can, like, anything I'm limping under the gun, I'm probably calling versus a 10x ISO. This guy's made it 12x. So probably shouldn't be calling here, I don't think, but he is very aggressive and pretty bad. And there is a chance that we're going to get to go multi-way with the hand that's going to perform very well multi-way. So don't love calling, but I think I just prefer calling over folding. And we get the multi-way pot that we desired. And then we get this flop, which is obviously very good for us. The question here is, how do we play it? Do we check, hope it checks through, and just realise our equity, or try and realise our equity? This Granger guy, he's got like a 72% c-bet, which is just way over the top in this game. So he could potentially c-bet very light, gives us a chance to raise, but the problem is anything he c-bets in a pot this size isn't folding. So check raise wouldn't give us fold equity, even against some of his worst c-bets. And he's not guaranteed to c-bet. 72% isn't guaranteed c-bet, especially in a multi-way pot. So in the end, I elected to just go with the all-in. And I don't think the jam spew and the flop. Yeah, we're not getting a king to fold for sure. We're not getting stuff like queen 10 to fold. There's lots of stuff that just isn't folding here. But we have good equity against. Well, what we don't want to see is a flush draw when we go all in. We got good equity against most of the stuff that calls, and I think we still do have a chunk of reasonable fold equity. These two guys can just have stuff like pocket 10s, pocket 9s. He can just have, like, I don't know, ace queen that's missed. So there's a small chance we get it through. Maybe this works 25% of the time, and then the rest of the time we just need to get there. So I didn't love it. It stemmed from pre-flop. I haven't loved anything so far. I've loved my limp, then I haven't loved calling the ISO, and I haven't loved this situation. But I think the correct play is just to jam. We did jam. And we get it in, and we're in pretty rough shape. We're behind to his two pairs here. We're behind to his two pairs here. So our 9's dead. Our 8's dead. So we basically just have some flush draws or some backdoor runner. And I thought, oh, fuck me, I've got it in bad here. But when I went away and put it in the calculator, unless I made a mistake, I was actually favourite to win this hand. I had, I think it's 35% equity plus 4% chop equity. So the calculator was telling me overall I had 39% equity in this pot, which I was fucking flabbergasted because I presumed I'd be an underdog here. I was flabbergasted to see that despite having the worst hand on this flop, ignore this because the guy was in for one chip. But I did put his hand in there. Perhaps it changes if we take his hand out. I don't know. Perhaps I should have done it without him being. Perhaps I should have just no, because we have to put his cards in though, because it wouldn't calculate it properly otherwise. We need to know what his cards are because it's obviously goes into calculating everyone's share of the pot size. So yeah, we did need to keep him in. So yeah, I had like 35% chance to win this hand outright, plus another 4% chance to chop, which I was quite stunned by. I didn't think we'd have anywhere near that much equity. Sadly, this wasn't the time that we realised our equity. We didn't get there. But from a hand that I thought was pretty spewy, actually turns out that we played it fine. Apart from maybe the limp call pre. Maybe the limp call pre versus 12x is bad. But once we got to the situation we were in, I think I chose the best line. It just didn't work out. So there we go. 24 hands in 54 minutes. That's not bad going because it took longer to do 17 the other week. I hope you guys are enjoying the format that are watching. I know that the views aren't doing very well, but this is what I play now. And if people don't want to watch it, then tough shit for me. They don't want to watch it. I'm not going to make videos of stuff I don't enjoy. Because what's the point in booking that? Then you just being some shit salesman saying, oh, look at these games, they're fantastic. I never fucking play them, but I'm going to play them once for the video a week to pretend that I do. And just bullshit, you guys. So yeah, I hope you've liked it. Please do hit the like. If you got this part of the video, you must have liked it. So please do follow up by hitting the like. And any comments you have with any of the hands I've played, I'd be delighted to hear the feedback. So yeah, please do give us some feedback if you have any. But for now, we'll leave it there. We're back. Definitely not on Monday because I'm definitely working Monday. So probably back on Tuesday and probably with a similar video to this, just a hand review of one of my latest sessions. So take care, everybody. Have a great weekend and bye bye for now.